Now we are going to look at electron shells, and specifically their capacity. Now we think about electron shells and we count them from the inside towards the outside. So we got the first electron shell being very close to the nucleus, the second electron shell, the third electron shell, and so on and so forth. Now there can be many electron shells that are available to an atom. However, they may not always be occupied by some electrons. If they're not being occupied by electrons, we generally don't draw them. So you can see in the diagram here, I've got a bit of a dashed line for the fourth electron shell. That's because in my diagram, I may not be putting in electrons in there, and so I don't really draw them in. With that said, let's get stuck in. There are different capacities or limited places for electrons to sit inside of each different electron shell. So you can see on my diagram the first electron shell is rather small, and so because it is small, it has very few places for electrons to fit, so it can only hold a maximum number of 2 electrons in that first electron shell. The second electron shell is a bit larger, and so it can fit a bit more. It can hold a maximum of 8 electrons. The third electron shell is bigger again, and well, if you look in any textbook, they will tell you that the third electron shell can hold a maximum of 18 electrons, and that is absolutely true. However, I don't find it particularly helpful to my students when they get to higher levels of chemistry, when they use that 2, 3, 2, 8, and then 18 quantities in those respective shells. I find it's much more helpful to them if we can just say, in that third shell, if an atom has 8 electrons in its outer shell, it's pretty sweet. If it has 10 more in that third shell to make a total of 18, it's also pretty sweet. So I tell my students to remember the third shell holds 8 electrons, then 10 more later to make a total of 18. It'll pay dividends in the next few videos, I promise. So we're going to write in 8, then 10 more later, therefore equals 18 in total. Another feature that another fact that I should mention to you is that sometimes electron shells are referred to as energy levels, and the word energy level has a symbol, and it's the lowercase n. You can see that on the slide there. In fact, in that little table I just drew and filled in, you can see in the first column it's got little n and 1, 2, and 3. That means if I've got n is equal to 1, I'm technically talking about the first electron shell. If I've got n equal 2, I'm talking about the second shell. If I've got n equals 3, it's the third electron shell, and so on. So just be wary of that. Electron shells and energy levels are interchangeable terms. You do get to learn about some more specific terminology for where electrons are found in grade 11 and 12 senior chemistry, but if we're just doing basic chemistry for 8, 9, 10, this will be more than enough. And with that said, we're going to go into one last bit about electron shells in the next video clip.